this ain't no cookie cutter build. We haven't cut corners before. We ain't cutting corners now. The whole driveline is rated to 2,000 horsepower. Plumbing side for the power steering is about 95% done. Raceworks have kindly jumped on board and have sponsored this build. You know, we think we have everything, we get to it, and it just doesn't work out. That's just the reality of building cars like this. What is going on, guys? Today we have another exciting video on my Turbo LS VY Clubsport build here behind me, and in this video we'll be plumbing up a whole bunch of things, starting from the fuel system, because this car does not have a single factory line in it, because the whole driveline is rated to 2,000 horsepower. So we need to put some bigger lines, bigger fittings. We need to fit a surge and a few other things as well, like filters, pumps, and all that jazz, and get the transmission plumbed up to the transmission coolers, the Astra power steering as well, and the oil feed, drain, wastegates plumbed, everything like that. So there's a bunch of things to do, and we are going to go over that in this video. Now, Raceworks have kindly jumped on board and have sponsored this build. So as you can see here behind me, there is a ton of Raceworks products here. I've already used a few. There is a ton of stuff there will be getting used, and I'm sure there will be more as this video progresses. But I'm going to flip the camera around. I'm going to show you what we already have on the car, what we have mapped out, and yeah, basically from there we'll just hook into it. Starting off with what we already have on the car, we've got the Raceworks 2300cc injectors in there on the Plasma Man fuel rails. Now the Plasma Man fuel rails came with the Plasma Man intake manifold, so that is why we have them. But Raceworks have supplied us with the adapters to make it all work, and the fittings as well. So we've got the 90-degree fittings on there because the lines will be going directly over the top of the wiring to give it that nice and clean look. Because as you can see, this ain't no cookie cutter build. We haven't cut corners before. We ain't cutting corners now, so we're going to make it all nice and niche as possible. We've got the dash 12 fittings down here for the catch can. Now the catch can is last on the list. It will probably be situated in this vicinity here. Once the car is pretty well complete and ready to start, that is where we'll work out exactly where we want it. We may put it on the rear custom bar that Showtime made, which I will show you in a bit, or we may just put it there. We're not too sure yet. We just got to see how much room we have left. But as the video progresses, we will show you as it goes on. So I may mount the fuel reg off here or have to make another bracket, make that all work nice and looking clean. Now coming around to the back, we already have the half sunken fuel cell in the back here that Showtime mounted for me. Got the AI SPR 1200 triple pump surge tank there. So I do need a hard fix the surge tank down and a few other things underneath, which I will show you once the car is in the air. But firstly, Dylan Watts, aka Sexy VX. If you do not know him, check out his I'll put it down here. He has TikTok, Instagram, all that jazz. He's just built an L67 VX S pack. For you young gun P-Plater boys here in Australia, this thing will blow your mind. It's going to be making some crazy steam, so keep up with his content. He's coming past, he's going to fix that up for me. I'm just going to run a little B-roll sequence of him doing his jazz, and we'll get back to showing you guys exactly what needs to be mounted and where everything is going. Starting off with Dylan's recent work, the absolutely amazing looking brackets for the Pack Performance transmission coolers. Now they are twin coolers. The feed and the return for the rail there, that will be going up through there. As you can see, I've unmounted the shock bolts, so I've compressed the diff all the way up to make sure that we ain't going to have any issues of lines getting hit, squashed, or rubbed against. The lines will run through that gap and down along the brake line to where the original factory fuel lines were. Now I'm just going to grab the fuel filters. We have a few holes marked out here. I will show you exactly how they are mounted and what it will look like. This contraption you do see here is something that my boss Peter whacked together. This is a Raceworks 10 micron filter. We've got two stacked together with a bunch of adapters and brackets with the 60-degree off there. Now this is going to be situated where it's nice and easy and accessible. As you can see, we've already got some white dots there marked out. That is for the holes that I do need to drill out, but as you can see there, we have a fair bit of real estate for me to run the transmission lines under there and through there and whatever else we may need to run. But that's going to sit there nice and neat and cool, easily serviceable, easily accessible, because that is how we are making this whole build. So it doesn't make my life a punish, and we do everything opposite to what engineers do, which just make our lives harder. So myself and Peter have been trying to work out a good position for this fuel pressure regulator. Now, I really would have loved to have put it in the boot on the surge tank, so it's nice and hidden and tucked away. Makes the engine bay look all nice and clean still, but unfortunately we can't have it all, and it's not too wise to run a vacuum line all the way from the front of the car to the back of the car just for that. So myself and Peter have looked, and I think we've come up with a good position for the fuel pressure regulator. Now, the fuel pressure regulator we will be using is a TurboSmart FPR8. Not this one specifically, because I'm not putting blue in my engine bay. We have a black one on order. It should be here tomorrow, hopefully. But we did want to work with what we had, so we're not wasting any more time than we already have with not having parts. So we think we've come up with a good position. It is going to sit in the vicinity of here. We're going to order a few 90s and 45s and whatnot, but that's where it's going to sit. We're going to have the gauge running off the front there where the grub screw is, and a line running under to the dash 8 on the other side of the rail. But unfortunately with this, the biggest delay in everything has been ordering stuff. Now, you think you have everything mapped out in your head, you think you have everything right, written down or whatever, but honestly, when it comes to it, it's either doesn't work, there's not enough room, or it's just me being an OCD prick and wanting everything nice and neat. But that's just the reality of it. You know, we think we have everything, we get to it, and it just doesn't work out. That's just building cars like this. We're learning as we go. And really, I don't think even if you kind of knew what you were doing, you would have exactly everything, because every car is different. Everyone wants different things. Some people don't care, but I do. So I want it all nice and clean and tidy. It's making the process a bit longer, but you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I'll sleep better at night knowing that it was done nicely, and I feel like it's just going to add to complementing the engine and the engine combo to this car. So we'll order those tonight. We'll come back to it tomorrow. We'll mount the fuel pressure reg, and yeah, we'll show you guys exactly what we came up with and move forward. Intake and everything is on, because I did take this car to clay weld and I didn't want people sticking things in places where they shouldn't be stuck, so hence the blue tape and having the intake on. I kind of wanted to save it till last so it's all nice and, you know, the final little piece, but that's just the way it is, and it's good. No dust or anything's going to get in there, so we can play safely. Now, firstly, we'll start off with the fuel pressure regulator. We've obviously got the black FPR8 fuel pressure reg from TurboSmart. Now, it does have a sensor on the front. We didn't end up going with the gauge because I have the Haltech IC7 race dash, so that can be displayed on there. It doesn't need to be a mechanical gauge, so that's nice and cleaner for the engine bay, I suppose. And yeah, it's going to be on the dash, so we're going to know what it is at all times, which is good. That'll obviously work in sync with the Haltech Elite 2500 that I'm also running. So if it drops any fuel pressure or anything like that, it'll cut the car, it'll save it extra insurance. Braided line heading back there. That is the vacuum line, and as you can see as well on the booster, that is braided AN line as well. So no rubber lines on this car whatsoever. Everything is braided, and that's probably the best way to go about it because of the power this will be pushing out. It's a bit of a safety measure, you know, anything pops off, even like for the wastegates and the boost controller and everything, that's all going to be AN braided. So anything pops off and it boost spikes, yeah, the computer will save it, but it's going to be extra insurance for everything as well. So much stronger, much better. So that is that. Now, moving on to the next thing, we obviously got the oil feed. That is running down there. I did get a improved racing oil cooler adapter. We've got the boost controller mounted there. I don't know if that's going to be the official spot, but we'll have to see once we have the radiator and the fans in, because I may be getting a custom one made up because the standard one doesn't look nice in this, and you know, it's going to be running much hotter being an iron block. We do have the surge all mounted up and plumbed up. That is all there. It runs to the back to some fittings, which is what goes through the floor, which I showed you in the video a bit earlier, but that's all nice and neat there. Now I'll just lift the car up and I'll show you what was done underneath, because it is pretty nice, it is pretty clean, and I'm sure you guys are going to want to see how this was routed. The first thing I'm going to get into is you're going to see is this little dual filter contraption that I was talking about earlier in the video has been scrapped. We've got the Y piece now with each individual feed for the rail. That is done there. We've got the return on the inside as well, but the return off the reg actually does run down nicely through there and all nice and hidden, comes out there and obviously runs to the back. Transmission lines all hooked up as well with the nice Raceworks fittings and lines. We did add a oil temp sensor for the Turbo 400. We are going to also be adding a oil pressure sensor as well. So I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go, but once I hear we'll get that happening. The sensor's ready to rock. It's just the location. And we do also not have the selector on as of yet, because I'm putting a Haltech one on. It will, I think, help with the boost by gear and whatnot, but it will show on the dash what gear I'm in. And that was probably one of the biggest issues I had previously with the old Turbo 400 setup. Cruise along, you wouldn't know what gear you're in. And because this is reverse pattern now, I'm not too sure if it's actually going to engage in the gear. I have driven a reverse pattern car that acts like it's in neutral until you put your foot down, sort of thing. Don't want to cause any damage, and I want to actually see what gear I'm in. So that's going on there. Now moving back, as you can see, everything has been done nice and neatly. It all runs off the factory little mounts, as you can see there. A few extra ones added in, but it's all bunched up nicely. Not hanging too much lower than what it does from standard, but this car isn't going to be sacked anyway. But we've got it all running nice and as neat as we possibly could. We've got to run everything out the way of wires that have to be ran, cables for handbrakes and all that jazz. So that is all up there. It is all good clearance wise. We've double, triple checked, and that's all nice and as neat as we could get it. We've got the transmission lines obviously run back to these twin pack performance fans. They're all hooked up nice and in sync. The bracket I still have to fix up. I just whacked it on for clay weld so we could get all of it done and all of it ready to go. You know, this is going to be a last sort of thing. I need to, you know, tape off the car, make a little booth here so I don't get overspray anywhere, and sand them back, edge prime them, and spray them the same as the rest of the underbody. We're pretty much there, guys. It's been a bit of a mission to get it where it is, and Pete has been putting in the hours. Hats off to Pete. He's done it all. I'm just a man who said I want it routed, and he's done exactly that. It may not look like it, but I'm super grateful for Pete, who has absolutely smashed this out for me and put in all the hard yards, because I've been working late nights, getting that thing ready as well, racing that thing and whatnot, and this is just taking a little bit of stress off my shoulders. So let's hook in, let's get it done, and let's get this car ready for wiring. The engine oil cooler decided to rock up. It's a Durali cooler with a little fan on it. It's a pretty nifty unit. Takes up a bit of room, so I did want to try and shove it up in there somewhere so it's nice and clean. We don't have to run lines all the way to the back, because as you can see, we've got a fair few lines happening right now. It's not in place, it's just all sort of mocked up. It will be all finalized towards the end of everything once this is in, because we are going to mount it off the rear bar. So we do have that front space, we still have real estate. Dylan came and did the back end of it for the transmission coolers. Now he is coming and he is going to mount this to the front so we can finally run the engine oil cooler. Dylan has all finished up. It is looking mint and it's all mounted there. Now, as you can see, we've got a bit of airspace here. You can actually see outside because I have pulled the fuel tank out. That is it. Over here, well, the fuel tank, fuel cell, whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm going to be pulling all the coolers off right now. I'm going to sand down everything and we're going to paint it because it's all going to get rusty. As you can see, the back ones are done a little bit earlier. And yeah, they're starting to develop some rust there. So we're going to sort that out. We're going to pull these coolers off. We're going to get some Scotch-Brite it all down, mask up this whole section, and give it a quick little flick of the Sodal Underbody spray. All the important stuff is taped up. I haven't completely sectioned off the whole boot. As you can see, this carpet's still in there. I'm not too fussed with the boot. Honestly, it's no biggie. One day this will all be getting ripped out. A nice tin work, but that will be in the future. So for now, it's just taped up. There's not going to be any overspray going anywhere major. The diff is protected, the wheels are protected, everything like that. So yeah, we're just going to hit it with some Worth primer and then the Sodal Underbody spray. So let's set the camera up and let's get it all started. So as you'd expect, it was a little bit too hard to get this camera in the makeshift booth, and I didn't really feel like, you know, ruining my new camera. So anyways, it's all dry, it's all ready to go. It's probably been about 40 minutes. I had to duck out and grab the trailer. Now it's time to hit it with the Sodal Underbody spray. I might try to do a light coat on the top to try and get it to match what it's like underneath, but I don't know. In my head, I just want to do a thick coat and do it properly in the way it should have been. But anyways, let's get it done. So tomorrow morning we can get into putting all of the coolers back on and running the last few lines for the oil cooler and get this thing all buttoned up. Alrighty, so the coolers are in, they are all mounted up and looking the goods. Pete did go ahead and plumb the oil cooler up for me, so I've got a 60-degree off there coming up over the top just to give us some clearance on this panhard rod here. The other one just ran up there, and as neat as we can for now. Now we've still got the power steering lines to do, so everything that you see here is just mocked up vaguely. Not 100% tied in yet, but it is around where we need to go. Engine cooler lines come down here, run through the side there, up through the front here, and to the little oil cooler adapter there from Improved Racing. So that's in there, a few fittings, 290s and 145 off that. So that runs off there, that runs back. Oil cooler is all sorted and ready to go. Now it is time to do the Astra power steering, along with some Raceworks fittings. That is for the rack end. Another one there, that itself. And we have this little bracket here from Low Fab. So I'm gonna bring the car down, get a spot, put it in the boot, and mount this bad boy up so we can run some -6 lines to the front of the power steering rack. So this is what I've come up with. It's gonna sit here, it sits nice and tucked up in the corner here. Wiring we're on clean behind there. And obviously the fittings will run down into the back. I'm gonna drill these holes out, mount this, fix up the power steering pump itself, and then worry about doing the line. So let's do that. Let's get it all rolling. So here we have it. It's all mounted up. It's all solid. Getting some AN fittings for that. That is just going to be hose clamped because, you know, as you can see, there's no thread there or nothing, and it's just plastic. So we'll run those, work out where we're going to route them underneath, do it all up, get the rack end done, and start filling up with some fluids. We have 3 of these fittings, 2 go on the rack end, obviously 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, and then we have 1 on the Astra power steering pump. I'm gonna whack that in, route it, work it out, cut up some lines, and then I'll get back and show you guys what we have done. Alrighty, so if you can see there, we've got 2 fittings, and I've put a 120 degree there with a little bit of line. Now that actually runs all the way under here. As you can see throughout the video, these lines have changed in different positions, but this one here is the outside line, which runs up and goes through the floor up there for line number 1. Now I'm just going to make up another line with the 180 fitting on that one, not the 120, 180. Hopefully that'll fit. If not, I'll have to grab another 120, but I'll pop that on and run that the same simultaneously, work out what sort of length we need inside of the boot, and then I will be cutting it, putting a fitting on one end, and on the other end where the reservoir goes onto, that is plastic, which will then be a press fit onto a rubber hose, and that will be able to, you know, be all tightened down, because this series of hose is a little bit too strong to be clamped down with a normal clamp. So gonna get all that ready, that all mocked up, and then that is pretty much the power steering all done. It has been a hot minute since we last filmed that last little bit, but the plumbing side for the power steering is about 95% done. So both lines are in, but I haven't finalized the end with that little push hose fitting. I'm gonna drop the car down now and show you exactly why I haven't done that, and we will be circling back to this, probably put in another future video later. Let's drop it down and I'll show you what the hell is going on. In its quickest and simplest form, in the boot here, we have a fair bit going on. So I have actually stripped this car because it is going to Shane Chassis to get a 6-point roll cage. Now the 6-point roll cage comes through the parcel tray there, and it will go into the rail, which is here. Now I don't know where Shane is going to put it, but he may have to move the Astra pump, you know, either go a little bit further back or whatever. I don't know. So I don't want to finish finalizing the lines and then it's got to be moved and I've got to redo the whole lines again. The surge should be fine because, you know, there does seem like a little bit of room, but I am worried about the boot hinge there. If you guys haven't been in the loop, it's getting a 6-point cage and a tunnel raise, so we can put that big GJ drivelines tail shaft in there and finally get the few little things buttoned up once it's back, and then it can go off to wiring and get wired up. Now I have to give a massive shout out to Pete. He did probably 98% of this fuel system and everything else as well. I've never done this before. The amount of fittings I got from Raceworks and sent back and changed and this and that, it's absolutely crazy. You guys have no idea. It's not as simple as a factory car with a factory fuel system and you're just plumbing up a surge. It is completely different. And I'll never bloody do it again. It takes up so much time and so much hoist space as well. I don't see myself doing it. Maybe, you know, when I'm not working a full-time job and this is my full-time gig, maybe I'll do it again then, but until then, I'm not bloody interested, and I wasn't even the one doing most of the fuel system, so it's not easy. That's why this car is taking so long, bar the delays as well, which has been the main killer of this and has made me lose motivation or whatever. So I'm getting back to it now, getting into it, and yeah, we're gonna get this car done. The next video will be getting this car prepped for Shane Chassis, and then it'll be off to Shane in a week or 2. And we should have it back within 4 to 6 weeks. Just depends on whatever else we end up getting done at the same time. But we're on the home stretch, guys, so I'm going to leave the video here. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, put those post notifications on so you do not miss out on the next episode and future episodes on this wild VY Club Sport that I'm building here, and other builds that I do have going on as well, guys. So again, thank you so much, and as always, we'll catch you in the next one.